Welcome back to Dead Good Book Reviews and to 2023's brutal book purge. I think this is my third or fourth one of these, and every year I call it a brutal book purge. This year, it truly is, because I have no other choice but for it to be that. I will put a timestamp in if you want to skip straight to the unhauling, but if you want to hear the context, stay with me right now. We are hosting Christmas at our house this year. It is our first time ever doing so, and we realised quite quickly that we did not have any space to do that, and we needed a dining table immediately, because it felt a little bit rude to ask everybody to eat off their laps. This meant we had to reduce my double bookshelves downstairs down to one bookshelf. So now all I am left with are these two very short IKEA bookshelves and one bookshelf downstairs, which you will see later in this video. I don't know what to tell you. I couldn't condense it enough by just turning all the books on their side, so it was time to purge again. I will say I was very, very brutal with the downstairs books, as you will see when we get to that part of the video, but I have not yet cleared out upstairs. So this is the first chunk of this video, which is going to be dealing with these bookshelves, and also the piles of books that are surrounding me that I have filmed videos for and not moved, some of which will need to go back downstairs, so we're going to have to do some reconciling. It's all going to fit on the shelves in the end. That's the goal. Final goal is to have everything except for my TBR to have a place on a shelf. Can it be done? We'll find out together. Secondary final goal is to actually get rid of the books, because I have some ARCs tucked away at the top of here that are from last year's book Unhaul that I haven't dealt with yet. We're going to aim to get them out of the house this time. So I'm going to start with everything that is in piles on the floor next to me, and we're going to make some piles. We're going to have keep upstairs, TBR, so it needs to be in a separate pile, move downstairs but keep, and unhaul. Those are the four categories we're working with. I'm going to be harsh. If I don't plan on rereading it, it gets unhauled. If I plan on rereading it possibly one day in the distant future, and I think I might be able to get it from the library, if it's even a maybe, it's got to go because we just don't have the space in the house anymore. I think those are the categories, and if you're watching this video and you've watched for a while and you think, where is this book, where has this book gone? Some of them have gone to live in Katie's office because she wanted a copy of all the books that she had read, and it freed up space downstairs so I didn't have to unhaul them. So if I don't mention it, I probably haven't unhauled it, it's just living somewhere else. Okay, first pile. I've got to go for a run in about 40 minutes, so we need to get through as much as we can before we have to cut the camera and start again after lunch. The Stolen Kingdom by Bethany Atazadeh. I recently made the overbooked video for this. I don't plan on rereading this series. This is an easy unhaul. We're starting off well. Flower Heart by Catherine Bakewell. I also recently reviewed. I don't know if that video will be up yet, depending on my editing schedule. I don't plan on rereading this. I'm going to unhaul this as well. It does need to go in a separate unhaul pile because it's an ARC. We have another pile going on. Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. This is staying, and this I'm going to try and fit on these shelves up here. So we're just going to start a pile there, despite the fact that I am going to have to go through the shelf. It's fine. After the Forest by Kel Woods is a Hansel and Gretel retelling that I was recently given to review. I will unhaul this. Am I going to make a video for it? I don't know about this one. This one is going to have to be a genuine maybe, because I might need to keep it to make a review of it. If I do make a review, or if I don't, either way it will eventually be unhauled, so it's just going to sit up on my desk. Wild Seed I am reading this week, which is why it is on the floor next to me. I've just talked about it. We're going to make a little pile for TBR and currently reading. Don't put on a shelf section. The Golden Thread, How Fabric Changed History, is on my TBR. Fabric, The Hidden History of the Material World, also on my TBR. I've talked about my TBR fairly recently. The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axio, I need to get to, but it is on my TBR. A Swift and Savage Tide, TBR. Reminer, not sure, TBR. Should probably read that before the end of October. I'm filming this towards the end of October, just so you know. Kingdom of Souls. Now this is an interesting one, because I'm currently in the middle of this series, but I do think I probably don't want to keep this arc even when I'm done, because actually there's quite a lot of changes between this review copy and the final product, and I don't think I need to own them. But do I keep this to make the review? It's not actually the real cover. I think it's gonna go. Decisive. We've not got the shelf space to be indecisive today. Network Effect, the Murderbot novel, that is staying. If I can get that downstairs, that would be good. Blade of Dream, the second book in the Kithamar trilogy, I am gonna keep until the third one comes out. I think that makes the most sense to me. I'm going to try and get that downstairs. I think I'm gonna massively be overestimating how much space is downstairs. It's gonna be fine. He Who Drowned the World by Shelley Parker Chan. I'm gonna try and get on these shelves. Now we're on to shameful stack of books that I reviewed ages ago that I haven't done anything with. Neon Yang's The Ascent to Godhood. I am gonna unhaul just because I don't own the rest of the series. I don't feel a super strong urge to reread it, and if I did, I would probably do it by audio. Claire North's House of Odysseus, I'm gonna keep it downstairs. Kirsten White's Conqueror's Saga. I have been being really brutal with the YA. I think I'm going to hang on to these because I own the whole trilogy. There's not good logic to it. I have so little space downstairs. It's going to have to stay. It's going to have to. I can't get rid of them. Age of Ash by Daniel Abraham is staying for the same reason as Blade of Dream. The Ruthless Lady's Guide to Wizardry. I did enjoy this. I did make a review video for it. Am I going to read it again? Am I going to read the other book in the series and then reread this? Let's keep it for now. The Wolf of Oren Yarrow series finished. Don't need to keep this. Can unhaul this. Half a War by Joe Abercrombie I will be hanging on to. I'm going to keep the other book in the series as well. We'll come to the other book in the series that I own later. I need to buy the first one. I'm keeping it. Unconquerable Sun by Kate Elliott. I tried to read the sequel. I could not do it. This has to go. I'm not doing great. I've only unhauled 3 things. It's okay. The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. I am keeping. I feel like I need a separate stack for books I'm keeping until I've read their sequels. But I don't think that's actually going to make a huge difference to me because I'll just know when I read it, right? This is staying. Will it go downstairs? We'll try and make it fit downstairs. The Phoenix King by Aparna Verna. I was going to wait to see what the second book was like, but I think realistically I could reread this from the library and have just as good a time if I did want to read the second book in the Ravens trilogy. It's gonna go. City of Stairs by Robert Jackson Bennett. I am gonna hang on to. I'm gonna try and get it on these shelves up here. Like that series a lot. Don't plan on buying book 2 and 3, but happy to keep owning book 1. I previously mentioned Half a War was staying, Half the World is also staying. Mammoth by Jill Bagachinsky, I have just reviewed. I'm wearing the same outfit as I wore in that review video, if it's gone up already. Love this, keeping it. Gonna live downstairs. The Light Brigade is actually on my TBR. Ooh, the Hassad Air. I liked this. Did I like it enough to keep it to read book 2? Yes, I did. I'm going to keep this one. I've got rid of the Phoenix King, therefore I'm going to keep this one. I'm going to try and get it on these shelves. Wolf Song by TJ Klune is one of the very few books that I've bought this year. I am going to keep it, and it's just going to go on the shelves. Of course I'm keeping the Bone Shard War. Duh. No brainer. Obviously it's staying. Gods of the Weirdwood I do want to reread and review for the second book, so this is staying, even though I didn't quite get into this as much as I wanted to. But we're going to try and get to it. I have 4 of the books in the Mortal Engine series. I will be asking for the rest of them in these covers for Christmas, so I'm going to hang on to these. They're gonna have to go downstairs so they can stay together. Or I could just keep them in my TBR pile. And no, I need to put them downstairs. Now we're on to the trickiest part, which is these shelves behind me, because typically if a book makes it onto these shelves, it's because I genuinely love it. I don't think we're going to get rid of much from these shelves as we go. And there's not space downstairs to just shift things downstairs. Also, my Muna album was up here for some reason. Oh, it looks really weird without them behind me, sorry. Hench, I can actually move downstairs. This is going to go in Katie's office. Katie can have this book now. I cleared up 1 book's worth of space. Kaikei, staying. Shawful, staying. I'm going to just undo 1 dungaree strip so I can more easily turn. The Sword Defiant is staying. Cemetery Boys is staying. Blanca y Roja is staying. Dark and Deepest Red is staying. Iron Widow is staying so I can read the next one. If I ever gave up The Bear and the Nightingale, assume I've been abducted by aliens. Likewise, Becky Chambers, assume the aliens have taken me. God of Lost Words and the Library of the Unwritten by AJ Hackworth. Some favourites. The Jasmine Throne. A favourite. I think this might be enough room for my tall hardbacks. Phoenix Extravagant I was on the fence about. Will I want to reread this? Possibly. Could I read it again in the future? Maybe. I'm gonna hang on to it. I'd like to reread it at least once. Rune of Kings is never going. This series is staying. Circe, I love it. It's staying. The Bone Shard Daughter is a fundamental part of my personality at this point. Golden Enclaves. I would really love to do a reread of this series at some point. Muse of Nightmares is gonna stay. And then I have The Unbroken and The Faithless. I'm gonna try and move The Faithless onto this green shelf so it matches better, but The Unbroken can stay. Moving on down to the green books. I did think those fit on that shelf too easily. I forgot some. 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin. Twilight Robbery by Frances Hardinge. It pains me to unhaul a Frances Hardinge book, but realistically, if I'm gonna reread Frances Hardinge, it's not gonna be these ones. That's okay. Doesn't mean I didn't like it. Just, I'm not gonna reread it. I am gonna read Jade War. And of course I'm gonna keep The Liar's Knot. It would be wild not to. Back to doing this. Alright. Green and Blue, Early and a Sword, staying. Jade Legacy, staying. N.K. Jemisin's Broken Earth trilogy, I have got a reread planned, and they're gonna stay. Mask of Mirrors is gonna stay. Sword of Kaigen, staying. Even though I only ever read it by audio, I like to own it. Laura Lasco's Fallible Justice is gonna stay. Rosie Thor's Fire Becomes Her. This is a tricky one. I've been being very brutal with the YA. Do I want to keep the YA? Yes, I did say I would like to reread this at some point. And I would stand by that. I do, yes. Ocean's Echo by Everina Maxwell is a no-brainer. It's staying. I already mentioned The Faithless. The Faithless is staying. Foundryside, yes. A Far Wilder Magic. A tricky one. I think it's probably got one more reread left in it, so we'll keep it for now. Jade City stays. I would like to replace this with a hardback at some point, but for now, we're keeping my arc of A Restless Truth. The Grace of Kings. I need to at some point read the rest of this series. It will happen one day. One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. I am holding on to this until the sequel comes out, and I already said I was just going to put stuff on the shelves for that, so... But it won't fit. If I unhold it, everything would fit. Everything else has to stay. Fine. But I'm annoyed about it. Oh, on to smaller hardbacks. Wild Beauty by A.M. Macklemore, I am going to unhaul. And that's wild to say, because I love A.M. Macklemore, but realistically, much with the Frances Harding, I'm not going to reread this if I reread any of their stuff. And if I did want to reread it, it would be possible to do so. And we have to be brutal this year. Skinful of Shadows is going to stay. Some novellas, I have Every Heart a Doorway, this is going to stay. Psalm for the Wild Built, this is going to stay. Upright Women Wanted, this is going to stay. Mexican Gothic, would be madness to get rid of it. The Last Graduate, love it as well. Gods of the Weirdwood is a little bit green, and it'll be behind me most of the time, so you won't even know. And Wolf Song is going on here as well. It's manageable. Everything's fine. Down to the bottom shelves to my left. Lore Olympus, 2 books. I am going to keep these, but I'm going to try and get them next to the other 2. So we'll put those on the try and get to the place pile. R.J. Barker's Wounded Kingdom series. Will I reread them? Maybe. If I reread them, could I get them from the library or by audio? Yes. If I'm going to reread R.J. Barker, I'd want to reread Tide Child. And I know Justine owns these, so I could always borrow them. Robin Hobb is going to stay, obviously. Vengeful and Vicious by V. Schwab, staying. One day I'll stop saying vengeful and viscous in my mind, but it's still funny to me, so I'm going to keep doing it for now. V.E. Schwab's Gallant. It's very pretty. The edges are very nice. Is that enough of a reason to keep a book? Yes. This shelf has plenty of space. This shelf is fine. Autonomous by Annalee Newitz, I am planning on rereading. Already mentioned The Tide Child by R.J. Barker. They're all staying. Turning Darkness into Light. I love it so much. Yes. Small Favours by Erin A. Craig. I'm keeping it. I love Erin A. Craig's writing. Archive of the Forgotten. Staying. The original Diary of Blood cover. Staying. Piranesi. Staying. The shelf is a tricky one because I have to be able to get to the plug socket behind me, so I can't fill it too full. And I'm also going to chuck He Who Drowned the World on this shelf. I don't have anything on the bottom shelf here, so we're going to do my blue shelf and my purple and everything else shelf. Oh, I'm about to have to reset the camera though. We've been going for a full half hour. We're going to keep going until these shelves are done, and then I'm going to take a break. I don't think much is going to go from these shelves. Let's see. Under the Whispering Door, I'm going to keep Little Thieves. Despite the fact that I didn't like the sequel very much, I would read this again. Strange the Dreamer is going to stay. I love this duology. The Starless Sea, I do want to do a reread of, so I'm going to keep it, though I probably could squeeze it into Katie's office if I wanted to. Record of a Spaceborne View is going to stay. Deadly Education, I've already kept the other 2 books in this series. This shouldn't be a surprise. Talk about it all the time. The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, it's staying. I think I'm reading it again next week. Bone Shard Emperor, staying. I've kept the other 2 books in the series. Desolation Called Peace, I am keeping. Shadow Scale, the full Age of Madness trilogy, I will also keep. Lore Olympus, and also the other Lore Olympus. They're very heavy. There's no way this all gets back onto the shelves. Absolutely no way. Wage of the Witch and The Girl in the Tower, I'm keeping both. Tess of the Road, keeping it. It's got at least one more reread in it. The Mirror Season, I'm going to unhaul another A.M. Macklemore. It's not my favourite. I don't love it. V. Schwab's The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, I am going to keep. Why with the weird hardbacks? Harrow the Ninth, I'm going to send downstairs to Katie's office because she has my copy of Gideon, so might as well. Unraveller, absolutely love it, keeping it. Nettle and Bone, never getting rid of it, love it. When the Moon Was Ours, also love it, keeping it. Look at that, it did all fit. Broken Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin, keeping. Will it slot nicely into this little gap I've created? Yes. And City of Stairs, which we needed to get onto this shelf somehow. It's not the neatest right now, it's a little bit hodgepodge jumbled, but I'll take it. If you were here for last year's, I still have my little ghost in his little box, and my 101 Dalmatians mug, which I love, and has sewing supplies in it. Alright, last shelf for up here, and then we're done with this chunk of the video. Actually, no, we're not. There's stuff above me. Almost last shelf. Seraphina is staying. In the Serpent's Wake is staying. Galaxy and the Ground Within, staying. A Marvelous Light, staying. Labyrinth's Heart, staying. Discord of Gods, staying. It's gonna be hard to whistle this one down. Come Tumbling Down, staying. Reign of the Fallen and Song of the Dead, I'm gonna keep them. As much as my brutal self says get rid of them, the phrase bisexual necromancers cannot be said that often, and I like to say it. Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein, gonna stay. A Magic Steeped in Poison, I'm gonna unhaul. I didn't like the second book. I don't need to keep the first one. Daughter of Dr. Moreau is going to stay. Love Sylvia Moreno Garcia. None of the Ninth, going down to Katie's office. House of Salt and Sorrows, staying. Should try and get a reread in for this Halloween. Red Scholar's Wake, this isn't the actual cover, this is the art cover. Love this, keeping it. Babel, gonna keep it. Dreadnought by April Daniels, I'm keeping till I've read the rest of the series. And then we had to try and fit Boneshard War and The Ruthless Lady's Guide to Wizardry, and I think we've just about managed it. Okay, lastly, I'm going to pull everything down from up here, except for the arcs that I just should have got rid of last year. I'm actually fine with these going back up here if they need to, because as I say, space is a premium, but if they will go in some of the gaps on the shelves, I will put them there. I have 3 of the Edge Chronicles books that I just need to get downstairs. Downstairs pile is precarious, and I know there's not that much space. The Bright and Breaking Sea, I'm gonna slot up here. Strange Practice is also going up here. So I also have Dreadful Company, which will go up here, haha, and Grave Importance, which won't fit with the yellow books, but it can just go on the bottom shelf. The Regency Fairy Tales books, I would split up and put all in different places, but I think I'm just going to keep them also on the bottom shelf because I bring them up so often it's useful to have them to hand. My Goldsboro editions of A Day of Fallen Night and Priory of the Orange Tree, I am actually going to keep them on this top shelf because they are too shiny to be on camera, but they are beautiful. The Great Leveler Collection by Joe Abercrombie, I'd quite like to put downstairs. I'm going to see if it'll fit downstairs, and if not, it'll go back on that top shelf as well. Alright, to close out this section, I'm just going to do a shame tour of the books that I unhauled that I haven't actually got rid of, on the off chance that a couple of them are from this year. So I'm just going to whiz through them, just show you them. I'll put some jazzy music in the background. It's fine. Yeah, that's my stack of shame. I'm pretty sure it's just the Tamara Pierce, the Book of Gothel, and the Cat and Fisher that are new to this pile. And other than sorting these and taking some stuff downstairs, that's this section of the video. We've done upstairs. We've unhauled 14, 15, 16, 17 books, which is not too shabby. And then also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things that probably should have been gone before. Maybe. I've already technically purged downstairs once. When I want to go through, I want to re-alphabetize the shelves. I will do that off camera, and I will do my secondary go through. I will get all of the other stuff up there, and then we will do what I've unhauled. I'm going to say at this stage, as we head into an intermission of sorts, I didn't buy very many books this year. I think I bought maybe 4 total, and it's October now. It's just how it's been. A lot of these will be books that you've seen before. Not a huge amount has changed, other than my tastes. Okay, right. Future Judith will see you in a later bit of the video, which for you will be happening right now. Hello from a full week later, and also downstairs. I don't know what my hair's doing either. Don't worry about it. We're finishing off this brutal book purge of 2023. Behind me is my one remaining bookshelf. I'm in my living room right now. That's why the lighting is strange and sinister. Don't worry too much about it. I've just spent a good chunk of time putting everything back into semi-alphabetical order. Some of it had to go by the wayside so that everything would fit, but everything does fit, which I'm very proud of. So I guess at the end of the video, I'll put in the fun time-lapse of me putting the bookshelf together, because I find that satisfying, if it's in focus or in any way worth using. I'll put it in the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. Let's talk about what I've unhauled from these shelves though, because it's a fairly hefty stack, and it is also now combined with what I talked about before, so I guess Editing Judith's just going to have to remember what I already talked about and edit that out. Things that I've already given to friends. I've given away my copy of Honeycomb by Joanne Harris. I've given away my copy of one of my fabric books, not the ones that I haven't read, but one that I had read, and my copy of the first Umbrella Academy comic, which I did not need anymore, and I have a friend who's a big fan, so I've handed that over. But here is everything else that I'm getting rid of, some of which I've had around for a really long time. So know that when I'm getting rid of stuff, it's primarily a space thing and not necessarily an I hate the book thing. But let's get into it. Just pulling off the stacks next to me, you can see some of them here. I have Legendborn by Tracy Dion. I decided that while I did actually like this and I would read the next book in the series, I can get it from the library. I don't need to own a copy, but I do recommend this series. Getting rid of Bisexual Mermaids. I know. This is The Seafarer's Kiss by Julia Ember. I like this book. I don't have a strong desire to reread it. I think I've moved on from this now. Doesn't mean it wasn't important to me at the time, but I'm excited for this to have a new home. Far from the Light of Heaven by Tade Thompson was a Space Sirens book that I did definitely enjoy. I thought it was a good book. I just don't have a strong desire to reread it. This is an ARC copy of A Master of Gin by P. Jelly Clark. I'm only getting rid of this because I have 2 of them. I don't need another one. Tangleweed and Brine by Deirdre Sullivan. I was keeping this so I could do the reread for Overbooked, but I know that I'm not going to want to read it again. A new home for you. I am getting rid of the 2 Spellslinger books that I own. I own Crownbreaker and Soulbinder. Both of these I really enjoyed. I like the Spellslinger series, but I know I'm not going to buy all of the rest of them, and if I want to reread them, I will just get them from the library. To Kill a Kingdom by Alexander Christo. This is a book that is kind of, I guess, suffering is probably the wrong word, but is falling afoul of my very, very brutal purge this year in terms of YA. I like this book a lot. I think it's a fantastic Little Mermaid retelling, but I don't really reach for the YA on my shelves anymore, and again, could get it from the library if I was desperate for a reread. I decided I'm just never going to read To Sleep in a Sea of Stars again. It's never going to happen. Supernova by Marissa Mayer. I am actually getting rid of the rest of the books in this series as well. YA, I'm not going to reach for it. I have other superhero books that I kind of like more now. Farewell, you've served me well. Girls Made of Snow and Glass. I do actually really enjoy this book. I think it's a really great fairy tale retelling. I'm not reaching for it. I'm gonna pass it on. Watch me second guess every single book in this video, I swear. Dry by Neil Schusterman. I recently reviewed this. I might reread the Scythe series one day. I'm unlikely to want to read this again. Still think it's a really good message about the climate crisis. Some books that I'm not gonna talk about on the channel. Monster, She Wrote is a non-fiction book about the history of speculative fiction and women's place within that. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was really interesting, but I'm not gonna read it again. The Monsters We Defy is a really good book as well. It's a fantastic story about a clairvoyant. There's a murder mystery involved. I like this a lot. I would read another Leslie Penelope book, but I'm not going to pick this up again anytime soon. Shadows of the Short Days. I had such a harrowing time with this and with the sequel. I do not need to read it again. It can go. The Best of All Possible Worlds by Karen Lord. I'm so sorry, Angela. I did like this. I'm just not going to read it again, and with shelf space so limited, I have to stick to just favourites. I'm so sorry. A Queen in Hiding by Sarah Kozlov. I like this a lot. I'm not going to buy the other 3 books in the series, and I know where I can find them if I want to read them. This is going to go as well. Here's the other 2 books in that Marissa Mayer superhero series that need to go also. V.E. Schwab's City of Ghost. I've been hanging on to this for a while because I was kind of like, well, I collect V.E. Schwab's books, so I should keep this. But it's her middle grade. I'm not going to reread it. I don't need to own it. Letting Go. Melinda Salisbury's Sin Eater's Daughter series. I did definitely enjoy. It stayed with me for a long time. I'm glad that I finally got to do a full read through of it for Overbooked, but I don't need to read it again. I'm getting rid of my very old, very broken copy of Eragon because I don't need to keep 2 copies. My other one is a pristine hardback. I can say goodbye to this. I don't need to be attached to it. When I die, no one's going to be like, ooh, we really should keep their battered copy of Eragon as a reminder of them, right? I don't want that to be the case if it were the case. It can go. Possibly everything else is from upstairs. I think that brings you up to date with everything. I'm pretty sure everything else in this stack was from upstairs. The last thing is I'm going to get rid of my copies of The World of Lunaria by L.L. McNeil. Like this series a lot. Don't love it enough that I reach for it or I'm going to particularly want to reread it in the future. So I am going to say goodbye to these, but I will be reading the further books in the series. I'm just going to read them digitally. It suits me much better. 32 books plus the 3 that I already got rid of, so 35. Plus whatever I said earlier. Will be my grand total of books unhauled, which compared to last year, I have no idea. What was last year's total? Editing Judith. Compare the 2. I will say I'm already doing slightly better than last year because I have got rid of those old arcs. Well done me. Right, normally I would head back upstairs to conclude this video, but I'm very, very warm and I'm going to make a cup of tea and I'm going to lie down for a little while because hefting all these books has been a lot of work. I was not expecting to get rid of many books this year when I thought about the unhaul, mainly because I was brutal last year and the year before, and I didn't really buy very many books this year at all. There'll be more on that towards the end of the year. But I think it's a testament to how my reading tastes have changed a little bit, so getting rid of all that YA, and also something about my attachment to books has changed. I think when you stop book collecting, you just feel very differently about the objects in your home. and I don't feel the need to have a huge collection of books. I want to have the ones that I love, but I want to know that I love them. I don't want to look at my bookshelf and be like, oh, maybe I want to reread that, you know? So there's a few things on here that have final rereads for Overbooked, and then will probably make their way out of my life, but I will do my best to do what I did this year and save them all up for a video towards the end. Before I leave you with potentially a time-lapse and probably some bloopers, I would love to know what your kind of policies for keeping books on your shelves are. Are you a massive book collector? Are you a book minimalist? While you're commenting, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. It makes me feel loved and appreciated. If you would like to, you can come hang out on Discord where we have chill chats about books. I would like to say a frankly gargantuan thank you to all the ghosts who haunt me over on Patreon. They are a wonderful group of people who support the channel and in return get early access to videos, bonus content, live streams, and more. If you like this kind of thing, a little bit more stream of consciousness, me chatting through stuff, that's the place to find that. If you would like to join, that's linked down below as well. Thank you so much to you for watching all the way through to here. That's all from me, and I will see you in the next one.
There's gonna be some bloopers now.
Begin the Unhaul counter. Editing Judith. It was a real hard... Editing Judith might not do that.